This line by Arthur Schopenhauer is something many people understand deeply, especially those who have crossed into their 40s. A person can truly be himself only when he is alone. This realization usually comes after years of living among others. People spend their lives socializing, disagreeing, arguing, adjusting, and sometimes isolating themselves in different ways. Over time, they learn how tiring constant interaction can be. After years of talking, explaining yourself, adjusting your behavior, and always being around people, you slowly begin to notice how much mental energy it consumes. Your mind feels drained, even when nothing dramatic has happened. But why does this happen? What exactly about social life makes it so exhausting? That is exactly what I'm going to explore in this video by looking at the world through the perspective of Arthur Schopenhauer. So let us begin. Schopenhauer believed that the moment we step into society, we start to lose parts of ourselves. Not because people are cruel or evil by nature, but because society itself depends on compromise to function. As he explains, all society requires mutual adjustment and self-restraint from its members as a basic condition for its existence. In simple terms, being around others means holding something back. In every social setting, we quietly adjust our opinions, our tone of voice, and even our personality so that everything stays smooth and comfortable. The larger the group becomes, the more watered down everything feels. Conversations become safer, ideas lose their sharp edge, and authenticity slowly disappears. The moment we enter social life, something inside us must be hidden. Harmony demands it. Truth becomes flexible. Freedom becomes uncomfortable. A polite smile replaces honest expression. Society runs on manners, and manners often depend on small, quiet lies. Even the most intelligent and creative minds are forced to soften themselves just to be accepted. What makes this situation more dangerous is that it happens even in what people call good or polite society. Schopenhauer warns that polite gatherings are far from harmless. He writes that such environments do not allow us to remain as we naturally are. Instead, they pressure us to shrink ourselves down or even change our shape entirely. To belong, we must make ourselves smaller. To fit in, we must reshape who we are. And the cost of that reshaping is far greater than most people realize. He goes even further by saying that we must give up 3/4 of ourselves just to become like everyone else. Think about what that means. Every social interaction requires a small act of self-denial. Over time, those small denials begin to pile up. The sharp edges that once made us unique slowly get smoothed away. The deep thoughts we once explored are left untouched. Gradually, a person becomes only a fraction of who they could have been in solitude. Schopenhauer also noticed something deeply uncomfortable. The more individual a person is, the more society suffocates them. He observed that constraint is always present when we are in company. And the greater a person's individuality, the harder it becomes to endure the sacrifices that social interaction demands. A shallow mind has very little to hide, but a rich and deep inner life, because it is unusual, must constantly hold itself back to avoid conflict. Society punishes depth by demanding sameness. This is why Schopenhauer makes a bold and uncomfortable suggestion. He argues that, for most people, solitude is not a loss at all, but a gain. In his words, society is often structured in such a way that anyone who trades it for solitude makes a profit. Socializing often pretends to be something stimulating, something lively, enriching, and even necessary for a healthy life. But Schopenhauer saw through this illusion clearly. He believed that much of social life does not truly feed the mind at all. Instead, it only distracts it. At the core of this constant need for company, he identified what he called a vacuity of soul. This means an inner emptiness, a lack of depth that makes silence feel unbearable. Because their inner world feels poor and empty, people chase noise. They look for conversation, crowds, and entertainment, not because it brings real joy, but because they feel uncomfortable being alone with themselves. Schopenhauer explains this drive very directly. He says that it is mainly because of this inner emptiness that people constantly seek society, diversion, and amusement of every kind, which often leads them into excess and misery. Social life then stops being about real connection and becomes a form of escape. Hours are spent in endless talking, laughter that fades quickly, and entertainment that leaves nothing behind. All of it serves one purpose: to avoid the quiet realization of boredom, But these distractions never truly fix the problem. They only delay it. Once the noise fades away, the emptiness comes back, often stronger and more painful than before. According to Schopenhauer, the real solution is not more stimulation, but something far more rare: inward richness. He argues that a mind filled with thought, creativity, and understanding does not suffer from boredom. Such a person does not need constant entertainment or endless company to feel alive or engaged. As he puts it, nothing protects a person from misery better than inner wealth, the wealth of the mind. The more this inner richness grows, the less space there is for boredom. A rich inner life sustains itself. It moves forward on its own. Time becomes something to explore and reflect on, not something to kill. In contrast, a shallow mind cannot remain still. As Schopenhauer suggests, it has no movement of its own. Every empty moment must be filled with gossip, with spectacles, with distractions that are loud but empty. Social gatherings then turn into factories of mental noise, where nothing meaningful is created and nothing lasting is remembered. Schopenhauer even mocks the activities people commonly use to pass time together. Card games, parties, and similar entertainments do not appear to him as harmless fun, but as clear signs of intellectual poverty. He calls them evidence of bankruptcy of thought. He observes that the main occupation of society is card playing because people have no thoughts to exchange, so instead they exchange cards. His language is harsh, but his meaning is clear. When nothing is happening inside the mind, the hands and mouth must constantly stay busy. To Schopenhauer, these distractions are not just meaningless, they are harmful. They waste time, dull perception, and train people to fear silence. He even goes so far as to say that those who crave constant company are often intellectually poor and generally vulgar. In this sense, social chatter becomes both a symptom of inner emptiness and a cause of its continuation. And this is how the mind slowly withers, not through suffering or pain, but through triviality. Until, as Schopenhauer observed, people are left with no thoughts to deal in at all. Schopenhauer was harsh and unsparing when he spoke about how society deals with intelligence. He believed that most social settings do not simply overlook real intellect, they actively push it down. In polite and acceptable company, talent is only welcomed if it remains silent and does not draw attention to itself. Serious thinking makes people uneasy. Deep and original ideas disturb the calm, smooth surface that social life tries to maintain. Everyday conversation is expected to stay easy, pleasant, and harmless. Anything that asks for real attention, effort, or originality is often seen as too much, uncomfortable, strange, or even rude. This is why Schopenhauer observes that thoughtful conversation is considered almost disgusting to many people. Anyone who truly thinks for themselves quickly learns the unspoken rule: hide your ideas or suffer the consequences. And when an intelligent person does decide to speak, the response is rarely genuine interest. Schopenhauer explains that intellectual superiority offends others simply by existing. Brilliance does not need to brag or show off to provoke resentment. Its presence alone is enough to create hostility. Society prefers comfort over truth and agreement over insight. Because of this, a gifted person is forced into a difficult choice: water down their thoughts or risk being labeled arrogant, boring, strange, while real ability must constantly apologize for itself. Schopenhauer captures this imbalance perfectly when he writes that people are expected to show unlimited tolerance toward every form of folly, stupidity, perversity, and dullness, while personal merit must almost beg forgiveness for merely existing. In social life, stupidity is easily excused, but intelligence is viewed with suspicion. This is why Schopenhauer insists that the more a person has within themselves, the less they will want from other people, and the less other people will truly matter to them. Intellectual depth reduces the need for constant company. A rich inner life becomes enough on its own. Compared to this, society feels noisy, shallow, and inefficient. He explains this idea with one of his most powerful images. A great thinker is like a solo pianist, a small world contained within himself, able to create complexity, depth, and beauty alone. Society, by contrast, is like a badly tuned orchestra where each instrument can only play a single note. No matter how many average minds are gathered together, they can never replace one strong intellect working in solitude. In real life, social existence often demands the sacrifice of intellectual growth. Being accepted becomes more important than being truthful. Simply belonging takes priority. Even intelligent people are pushed into dull, repetitive, and meaningless conversations. Under this constant pressure, the mind begins to shrink. Schopenhauer describes how it slowly dries up, and withers through continuous self-censorship. Meanwhile, truly capable individuals either fall silent or are pushed completely to the margins. Even worse, society often turns natural value upside down. Schopenhauer believed that social systems regularly reward mediocrity while holding excellence back. He writes that society creates artificial differences that raise those whom nature has placed low and push down the few who naturally stand high. Talent is treated as a danger, while conformity is celebrated as a moral virtue. Taken together, these forces form a direct attack on the human mind. By pressuring gifted people to dull themselves for the sake of comfort, politeness, and social ease, society destroys originality and depth. Schopenhauer's conclusion is direct and without sentimentality. A person who has real fire within himself prefers to stay outside society, where he neither wounds others with his sharpness nor allows himself to be wounded in return. Schopenhauer sees the greatest danger of socializing in its quiet attack on our self-sufficiency and inner calm. Most people are afraid of the silence inside their own minds, so they cling to the constant warmth of company, approval, noise, and distraction. But this dependence, he warns, is harmful. Society offers what looks like pleasant and enjoyable social interaction, yet in reality, it often causes deep and sometimes lasting damage, beginning from youth. For this reason, he insists that we must learn how to be alone. Young people, especially, should be trained early to endure solitude and not fear being left to themselves. If we never develop the ability to stand on our own, we build a weak and unstable foundation. When people disappear or entertainment runs out, we fall apart. True happiness, Schopenhauer argues, comes from being whole within oneself. A person is in the best position when he is thrown back on his own resources and can be everything to himself. The more care we give to our inner life, the less we depend on the outside world. This self-reliance becomes a kind of inner wealth, a protective shield against the disappointments that life inevitably brings. The more a person has within himself, the less others can offer him. Schopenhauer explains that a mind rich in ideas, plans, and quiet reflection does not collapse when friendships fade or conversations come to an end. Such a person remains steady even when external supports vanish. Ironically, society tends to reward the opposite type of behavior. Those who depend heavily on others for comfort and stimulation are often the most sociable. Ordinary people, he observes, are easygoing and content in groups. For them, enduring the company of others is far easier than enduring their own thoughts. From this perspective, addiction to constant social contact is a clear sign of inner emptiness. Schopenhauer goes even further and suggests that unsociability can be a sign of greatness. He famously remarks that to say someone is very unsociable is almost the same as saying that he is a person of great ability. A quiet and solitary individual is not necessarily antisocial. He may simply possess depth. The intelligent person prefers to work alone rather than dilute his thinking through trivial and shallow conversation. As shown in Schopenhauer's porcupine fable, some distance between people is necessary. When we get too close, we constantly wound one another with our flaws. For Schopenhauer, true peace of mind is found only in solitude. He insists that genuine and lasting calm of heart and complete tranquility of soul can be achieved only in solitude, and as a lasting state only in full withdrawal from society. In social life, even small irritations and minor conflicts disturb us and prevent real rest. Only when alone can the mind fully relax and grow strong. By constantly pleasing the crowd, we give up our independence. By chasing endless entertainment, we empty our inner world. By blindly accepting social rules, we suffocate creativity. And by fearing solitude, we abandon our own strength. Schopenhauer's advice is firm and uncompromising. Withdraw. The less you are forced to deal with mankind, the better your condition will be. Solitude, when chosen wisely, is not loneliness. It is survival, freedom, and the path to a strong and flourishing mind.